I've been learning web cache poisoning, and in this video, I would like to consolidate my knowledge. But first, if you don't know who I am, my name is Logan Seck. I'm a bug bounty hunter for almost a year now, and I'm currently sitting at 2 valid bugs on HackerOne. And also, if you want the best bug bounty techniques for my own hunting and real write-ups, go to the link in the description, click on loganseck.com, and put in your email. But so I've been doing some of these labs. So far I've done 4 of the labs, and I've realized I have learned a lot. I knew pretty much nothing about web cache poisoning. So first thing I did is I used some AI to help me as I went through the labs and learned stuff. And I was also reading this stuff, just going through reading this stuff, taking the time, because by reading this stuff, I actually start understanding the information. And as I understand it, I'll do one of the labs. And from there, I had AI make me like this little cheat sheet like workflow. Starts you off with like load the page. You need to get all the sub resources, the HTML, JS, CSS, JSON, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't actually realize when it came to cache. It's not just trying to poison the homepage. For example, a lab that actually tripped me up was going to be this second one, which was web cache poisoning with multiple headers. So the problem here was we had both the X forwarded host and the X forwarded scheme headers. And I had put those in, and I was caching it. I was getting the cache, but the problem was I was caching the wrong path. Okay, let's use Amazon for example. I was caching literally the main path right here. But I was supposed to be caching that, and it was like resource slash JS, because when you load the main page, it would fetch this page that if I had cached, then it would fetch this page when I go for the home. So home would not be a special thing that I cache poisoned, but it would be this sub path that I did poison, and it would grab it, and that's how it would execute my XSS. And I didn't realize that I was having a super difficult time with that. So I didn't realize the home page would actually be grabbing other things. So in this video, I would like to, like I said, consolidate my knowledge. So if I make a mistake, if I misspeak, say something wrong, please let me know in the comments. This is not financial advice or, bug advice, I guess. So this is just my own interpretation, and I'm going to continue getting better at this. And I just want to document that. So web cache poisoning mental model. This is a 5-step loop for thinking about response level cache poisoning. So the core principle is don't poison pages, poison responses. That was a big thing like I just told you. Kept trying to poison the main page, but there's more than just the main page. Each different path could or could not be poisoned, I believe. So let's start here at number 1, which is map. So what does the page load? HTML, JavaScript, CSS, JSON/config, redirects. For example, I still don't understand quite how CSS or JSON work. I heard something about feature flags or something for JSON/config, but JavaScript, you can just type like alert document.cook and it'll execute. With HTML, you need to type like the whole script alert thing, and then it'll execute. And redirects, I've gotten some where it's like, let's see if I can show you, for example. It's like, it will be inside something like this will be like circ equals here, and then like if you use a website you control, which it will give you a server, that'll get appended to the top here, and it will redirect there. And since this is inside .js, it will then execute the payload that you put into the body. So first, a good way to map is something else I've learned, that you can use something like Burp or Kaido to map this and just look at the HTTP history. For example, just see like, okay, this is HTML, this is JSON, this is HTML, this is JSON. And you just look at that stuff and you start seeing like, okay, so I know what type this is. And then from there, you go on to marking, which is which responses are cacheable. You have Xcache, which gives you either hit or miss. You have age telling you how old this is. You have cache control, and then you have vary. So I didn't actually really understand these when I had it crafted. So I asked AI, like, explain these things to me. So I created this other one called 2.1, which just explains it. So Xcache equals did cache serve it. So if it's a miss, it's a no. But if it's a hit, it means it was cached. And then you have cache control. Super important one that I didn't understand, I see all the time, which is, can it be cached and for how long? If you see stuff like no store, it's not getting cached. For example, see, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Where is that? No store. Now, you get the point. If it's no store, it means that it's never stored. Or if it's private, it's only for one user. And then you have age. How old is the cached response? So after, let's say it's 25, which means 25 seconds old. And then it's about to expire, most likely. If it's, well, on PortSwigger, because it only lasted for 30 seconds. But it depends on how long the cache control says it will last. Then you have the vary, what makes separate cache buckets. Another thing I want to explain, which was the vary here, because this contained a vary, so it was super long, because the vary was header is used to specify the user agent. And depending on the user agent, would end up, how do you say, determining what got cached where. So let's say it was user agent Google Chrome. That would be different from user agent Safari, meaning you could cache both. It's just what you cache for Google Chrome will not be cached to Safari. So if you're trying to target the most amount of victims or users, however you want to say it, then you want to get the user agent that the most amount of people are using. And then you're going to cache that one. I guess you could just cache all of them, but depends on what you're doing, I guess. And then that takes us to, so that's the var, it's just which headers are being cached as well. In this case, it would be the user agent. And that takes us down to etag/last modified, which is just equal cache validation / version tracking, which is just like, when was the last time it was changed? Is it up to date? That kind of thing. It's not as important as the others, at least that's what AI told me. Not really too much on experience yet, other than labs, and I haven't really come across it yet. So then that takes us to mutate. So test inputs that affect responses. For example, X forwarded host, X forwarded scheme, X forwarded host, forwarded, all that stuff. So a good one for using this is, I actually never knew this. You can actually use the extension in burp param miner, turn this on, and then you have all this stuff. And then you can just go somewhere like a repeater, go right click, and then go to extensions, param miner, guess headers, and just hit OK, and you just start. And it will tell you if any headers come back as, yeah, you can use this header or whatnot. I didn't know that. Hopefully there's something like that in Kaido, because I do prefer using Kaido. And yeah, you just, after you know what headers can be used, then you see if you get any reflection in the response, or the response changes in any way. But as of now, only labs I've done they've always show reflection in the response body headers and stuff. Well, response header for me. Response body for me. But we're about to get into some other ones too, which are going to show up some other stuff. Let's see, what's the next lab? Next lab is going to be web cache poisoning via an unkeyed query string. I think it's actually DOM stuff. Let's see, web cache poisoning, exploit cookie handling vulnerability. That was DOM. So I don't know. I think it's this one. I don't know, but wait, no, DOM's coming. It's this one's DOM. Using web cache poisoning to exploit DOM-based vulnerabilities. I think that's the next one I have, right? No, but there's a whole different, so many ways you can actually, I don't understand all the ways that web cache poisoning could actually be like chained. It's not really a bug on its own, I don't think. There's like a simple version where like the language, just a normal user uses it, and like their language gets cached. So every language is now in Polish, but usually it's going to be something like where XSS or Open Redirect or other things get chained with it, which is interesting. And that takes us to store, number 4. Can the poison response be cached? So before we ship the exploit or whatever. Actually, I don't think you'll ever actually do this on a real bug bounty target. I think maybe you always want to use a cache buster. I don't know, because I'm not sure if you really want to like damage the user experience or whatever. But can the poison response be cached? Use a cache buster, something like, let's go Amazon. Let's say you're doing something like boo equal 1 2 3, and then you try all your cache stuff here, because you know no real victim or user is actually going to be right here. So even if something does get cached, you should be fine. So then after you've confirmed, then you're going to remove the cache buster. You're going to confirm the X cache hit, and then from there you're going to write up the POC if you have your impact or whatever, and then you should be good there. And that takes us to consume. Who uses the cache response? For example, is it an HTML browser render? Is it a JS browser executes? JSON front end trust? Redirect browser follows? Oh my god, voice cracker, whatever that was. Redirect browser follows. This will decide what kind of payload you use. HTML, you're gonna need to like put it inside brackets. Or JS, you can just go straight to alert. JSON, redirect, not quite sure how those work. I'm pretty sure redirect, just supply the URL or whatever. JSON, no idea how JSON works. Don't know yet. I'll be completely honest with that. And that takes us down to the bucket node, which I actually found really interesting. I kind of talked about it above, which was the key insight. Poison the right bucket, not just the URL. And this is what we're talking about when I said the check the very header. It needs to match the victim cache key inputs. Example, vary. User agent. For this one, the victim was using a specific user agent that I actually wasn't using. So to actually cache the response so the victim would get it, I had to use his user agent. So I had to figure out what that was. I did like a whole other thing. Not going to talk about that in this video, which was also kind of interesting too, but not this video. And next thing you know, I had a user agent. I switched my user agent to his user agent, and I already had the whole setup with all the headers and stuff that I needed. And I just kept sending until it cached. And then eventually it was PortSwigger lab. The victim went there and the lab solved. So as of now, this is my understanding and my knowledge of web cache poisoning. As I continue learning, I will continue getting better at this. I actually find this bug class very interesting. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, I got 11 more web cache poisoning labs to do. But I'm actually pretty excited. This is a cool bug class, and I hope I'll actually pop some bugs in the wild. That's kind of like the whole point of all this. So if you like this video, or maybe I said something wrong, you want to teach me something, go down in the comments. I'm more than free to help me out, make me a better hunter so I can pop more paid bugs and stuff. Buy more, I mean, still trying to get my first one, but to pop more bugs, And I just hope this video was helpful, or even if it wasn't, documenting my journey, where I'm at now and where I'll be in the future. So subscribe.